As we've just heard there, Donald Trump has made the false claim that the war was Ukraine's fault. How is that being received?
Received in Ukraine or in United States?
In both.
In Ukraine, I think you've done a fairly good job in your analysis there in your piece running up to this, that there is a sort of degree of shock, betrayal, and to a degree, um, yeah, there folks are a little stunned to be hearing this kind of rhetoric, especially the accusations that Zelensky is a dictator. In the United States, also, I think there is a a varied response. There's some folks who have already been on record correcting those statements. I myself have made already phone calls to my senators and representatives to urge them to make the necessary corrections when it comes to correcting misinformation, at the very least, that Ukraine did not start this war. And of course, the claims about Zelensky dictatorship without election are also exaggerated, to say the least.
Yeah, what do you make of those comments from President Trump that Volodymyr Zelensky is unpopular, is a dictator, especially given that we know that elections in Ukraine have been legally suspended because of the war?
Right, and there's nothing unconstitutional about the suspension of those elections. And according to public opinion polls, there are from last year, for instance, more than 60% of population agreed that Zelensky needed to see his term of office through until the next presidential election is taken place. And that election, of course, can happen when the hot phase of the war is over. But generally, Ukrainians are committed to democracy. There's numerous sociological studies from my colleagues who have proven this time and again that even despite of war, Ukraine remains a pluralistic society. There are active members of opposition who challenge Zelensky and challenge his policies. There are robust discussions in the parliament. And Zelensky does enjoy tremendous amount of support. Yes, it has declined since the beginning of war, and I think that's as a normal sort of fluctuation in the society, but it still is over 50%. As a matter of fact, according to some of my colleagues from UK who published their report, there's over 60. So, it still is a pretty high number of folks. And I dare say that, again, some of my colleagues in Ukraine have observed today, and I will tend to agree with them, though it's anecdotal evidence that Ukrainians tend to rally in a face of adversity. So I wouldn't be surprised if next results show that Zelensky approval ratings have improved rather.
This has been quite an escalation and tension really between the two countries over the last couple of days and the last week even. How badly damaged do you think the relationship is now between Ukraine and the United States?
Well, I really hope it isn't. However, at the same time, the rhetoric is, as you say, is meteorically developing. It's less than a week where we went from commitment to peace and pleasantries being addressed, and now to this escalation of rhetoric from President Trump towards President Zelensky. It's concerning. It's very, very concerning. And I think that it now behooves many members of American public and of American political establishment to also continue to reaffirm their commitment and also do the necessary work to let the president know where the public stands on this issue as well.
As we've just heard there, the UK and French leaders are heading to Washington, D.C. in the next little while. What do you hope or what do you expect will come out of those conversations with the US president?
To predict anything that comes out of conversations with the US president would be a fool's errand. So at this point, there definitely is hope that, and it's a positive thing that those conversations are happening. Europeans, I hope, bring something with them in terms of tangible, and I think that's probably what President Trump also is looking for Europe to take a much stronger role in solutions to the war, to providing Ukraine with necessary security guarantees, and very much hope that these meetings in Paris are yielding those tangible proposals that the European leaders can bring to Washington.